Hello, I'm best-selling author Janie Louise Jones, and I would like to share with you my astonishing story of publishing success. So who am I? I'm the author of the multi-million selling Princess Poppy series. This came about through self-publishing success, and that led to an auction for the stories between publishing houses, and the series was picked up by Random House in a groundbreaking 12-book deal, so you can imagine my excitement at this point. It was life-changing. So far, sounds so fairy tale. Well, not exactly. This required a lot of persistence, resilience, self-belief, and strategy. Going back to my early inspiration, I had a favourite childhood book, The Story of Cinderella. To be specific, the Ladybird story of Cinderella. This book transported me to another world. It fed my dreams and imagination and inspired me to become a writer. As an adult and as an author, a successful author, I now look at that Cinderella book on my shelf in a completely different way. I think about it in terms of its genre, fairy tale or folklore. I think about the rights, which are free in the public domain because there is no named author for this story. I think about the format of the book, i.e. a hardback illustrated book. I wonder about the themes, romance and transformation, perennial favourites. I also think about the narrative style, third-person omniscient, in other words, a godlike narrator who can see all parts of the story, opposed to a first-person narrator. The audience. This is a book for mainly girls of 3+. The moral message of the story is clearly one of redemption, which I find very uplifting and energising for girls. What about the dramatic impulse? It's clearly a peril of race against time, which makes it such an exciting read. And the denouement, well, it has that delightful happy ending, which pleases the reader every time. So what about my story? Well, my character, Princess Poppy, is very much a childhood alter ego. The fusion of my childhood books, which I loved, my princess wish and my love for flowers combine into this character which has now touched the lives of girls in the way that Cinderella touched my life. I didn't leave anything to chance. I studied English literature and creative writing at Edinburgh University so that I would learn the craft in a thorough, methodical way. And it was a bit later, in the early years of my mothering, my extreme mothering phase, I might add, that the series all bound together, and I would go as far as to say that motherhood was a catalyst for the launch of this series and this character. So this was my way into publishing. But what is yours? Your story is your unique way into publishing. And if you don't believe it's interesting, then no one else will. So think hard about what inspires you in terms of authors, books, interesting characters, places you've been. What are your original thoughts? Are you going to be a Terry Pratchett, for example? Think about your life experiences, particularly in terms of relationships, your imagination, your writing skills, your knowledge bank. All of these things will feed into your unique personal book idea. So you've made the big decision, you're going to write a book. There are actually a few more things you need to think about, such as finding a unique voice, by which publishers simply mean a writing style which is natural to you and doesn't have to be contrived in any way. You need to think about tone, for example, sarcasm. Children's books have less in the way of nuances of tone, but adult books may have a great variety of tonal changes. You need a working idea of what's in vogue, and this might be actually because you want to write something that's not currently in vogue. Maybe you want to set the trend. Why not? Publishing is a lot like fashion. It takes a long time for your book to appear in the marketplace, and things that are popular right now might not be once your book's ready. Have a working knowledge of the pitfalls. Be aware of the setbacks, and being forewarned is being forearmed. Don't worry about them too much. Dust yourself down. Remember, the first few pages of writing any story are the toughest part, but true writers will persist. A bit of advice on advice. First of all, do ask the right people, by which I mean successful authors, editors, literary agents, publishers. If you ask the right people, you should then listen to what they have to tell you, reflect on it carefully, and implement it where appropriate. But don't blow in the wind too much with all the varying advice. Remain steadfast in your personal literary goals. Do remember that most great works were once rejected. In fact, one journalist, as an experiment, typed up all the words of a best-selling novel, sent that as a manuscript to publishing houses, and they all rejected it. So don't worry too much about rejection. Some thoughts on genre. I write for children and I write in a whimsical way. However, there are many types of books to write. If you're going to go for perennial favourites such as crime, thriller or romance, they will almost certainly need a new angle or twist. Think about awkward genres, such as mixed genres. Rom-com is fairly established, but comedy thrillers or comedy horrors, these can be quite difficult to place in bookshops and on Amazon. So try at first to be quite clear about genre. Have a think about crossover novels, by which I mean novels such as The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, novels which appeal to children, teens and adults. These usually come about by accident, so don't be too calculating about crossover novels. Do think a lot about character-led series such as Harry Potter, Rebus, Morse, Horrid Henry and Princess Poppy, and notice that these titles are mainly either detectives or children's stories. These work really well for series-led characters. Some thoughts about the marketplace. The high street is definitely shrinking. Otakers and Borders chains have gone, and we're left with Waterstones and W.H. Smiths. But do not despair, people still love books. The internet's a very popular place to buy books and to download books. However, it's a big, wide and deep ocean. How do you get noticed on there when you're brand new? Well, you still have to promote yourself locally, in the press, in your local bookshops. You have to get people looking for you on the internet. But many traditional books are still purchased online and sent out by post, and of course many ebooks are downloaded for Kindles and other e-readers. So it's a healthy, lively, thriving marketplace. Do think about whether you want to be a literary author or a very commercial author. Literary is quite a small niche market. Perhaps you want to be in the mass market. It doesn't mean to say that mass market books such as, for example, James Patterson's series are not well written. Maybe you want to be a Booker Prize winner. Do you want to be on a bestseller list? Do you want to earn lots of money from your books? These are all questions you have to ask yourself. I like to think that Princess Poppy has an upmarket feel for the mass market, and maybe that's the secret to the success of the huge sales. Some notes on self-publishing, which, as I mentioned, is the way I got started. First of all, you need masses of self-belief. Do pay for a professional edit, as you're a bit too close to your own work. Find a good printer and bookbinder. Give masses of thought to the jacket. Think about market and distribution. Talk to retailers and consider ways that you're going to promote the book once it's ready. I find self-publishing to be a very successful way in, and I think it actually speeded up my publishing career enormously. Thinking of agents and publishers. Do send your manuscript when it's ready and you're happy with it to reputable literary agencies, but don't just rely on this. Try to get direct contact with publishing houses as well, especially the small ones initially. Agents and publishers can miss the next big thing. Always remain humble. Nobody really wants to work with a diva, especially when they're setting out. Be patient. It does take longer than you think. Have courage. Don't let anyone put you off. I have never, ever allowed anyone to put me off my publishing path. Do take advice on rights, particularly foreign and ancillary rights. So, your career in publishing. Avoid the one-hit wonder and second book syndrome. Perhaps go for an endearing central character. Always have additional book ideas ready to show publishers. Go for that powerful jacket. Fight for it. Have maximum publicity. Never lose your enthusiasm. And always remember, the next big thing really could be you.